Hey, how y'all doing today? Well, another day on the boat, and you're probably wondering what I'm up to. Well, the 9.9 stopped pissing, and which means we have a problem in the pump again, which I addressed the water jacket before. I think we might have an impeller problem this time. I'm not too sure. The only way to find out is we're going to have to take it apart to find out. So stay tuned. Okay, this is the 9.9 Johnson long shaft for a sailboat, and obviously we're going to have to set this up. We're going to have to remove, not all the way though, loosen them all up, all these bolts on both sides, and undo the shift linkage, which is it right in here. Now this boat here, the 3/8 that was in there was bad, so I replaced it. It's not exactly a 3/8, so that one's going to be a bit of a trick, and let's see how well we can do with getting her taken care of. The lever over here on this side, turn it up so you can tilt the motor up and lock it in place. Obviously, I want this to be straight. Locks in place. These bolts here, if I remember correctly, I believe they were 10 millimeter. Standard. Probably a 3/8. Yes. Okay, so you notice how we didn't take this whole thing down. I still have some bolts in there. You see inside of there is a bolt, and that bolt has to come out. That's connected to the shift linkage. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's there, I promise. Let's see if we can work on getting that out. There's a little bit of coaxing, and we're gonna have to let that socket drop, and we'll have to recover it later. But we have one more bolt that needs to come out, and this whole unit will just slide down. The whole unit, the whole lower unit. That's why they call it a lower unit. The whole thing will come sliding down. This would have came out if it was a 3/8. I had to use a 7/16 because it was the right thread and the right pitch. So I need to find a 3/8 head for a number for 1/4 inch by 24 per inch thread. Okay, as you can see, once you get these 6 3/8 out and this 3/8 out, this whole unit just slides right on out. Now you put this on the bench and take these guys out. They're all 3/8 inch, and they all need to come out next. And this middle section will slide right off, give me access to the water pump and the water jacket. All right, little sweet child of mine. As you can tell, I got this apart, and it just splits on. It just slides right on off. This whole unit just slides right off, and he sits down there. Do not pull this shaft out yet. Not all the way anyway. There's an impeller. There's a key in that impeller inside this compartment here. What's with all the oil? I'm not sure. This ain't a 4-stroke engine. It's a 2-cycle engine, so obviously expelled oil goes through the exhaust. So we take out these 4 boats. There's 4 of them, and this whole thing slides off. You need to slide this and this all out at once, making sure that you keep, there's a little pin inside of here on that impeller, and so you have to slide this out as one unit, leaving this part, slide this whole unit out, one piece. Okay, By the way, let me remind you, these are 7/16. These ain't 3/8. And this whole shaft should slide out, okay? So let's see how she does. Let's see how well the camera picks this up. This shaft and this housing has to come off in one piece, okay? That's one unit. I'm happy with what I'm seeing there. There's a pin inside of here. There's a pin underneath this, on this shaft, that holds the impeller in place. So we have the impeller. What I think happened is I think we sheared that pin.
What's up, buddy? What's up, Tim?
That's fine. Hey, Russ, how you been? Where you been all day? Check. So our pin is still in there. Our cup is still there. So that's going to be a conundrum. So I'll let you know what we got when I tear it down the rest of the way. But as you can tell, when you slide this back, okay, right here, when I slide that out, do you see that little pin? You need to make sure you don't lose that little pin, because that's the key for this impeller. Now we need to find out why we ain't really pumping. We have a clog somewhere. Okay, there was nothing wrong with the impeller. The impeller is in good shape. So it was spinning, but it wasn't pissing out the piss tube, which is this little fitting that goes on the end of here, like this. Check this out, and it was clogged. I've now unclogged it with a small drill bit, and it should be working fine. I just wouldn't think that would be really a thing, but it is. So, but while we're in here, I can go ahead and I want to show you some things that I've done. This whole housing was ate away up in here and in parts of here, and as you can tell, it still has a little notch where it's eaten away a little bit, but all this has been filled, and the impeller don't ride in here at all. This is just part of the water jacket, and this was all eaten away, and it does look to me, and we flattened it real nice, and it works real good. So I'm really happy about that. So I did kind of want to tear this back apart so I can show you this. I just filled it in with some epoxy putty, and once it was filled in and dried, I took my Dremel tool and I concaved it so we can get this bearing out if we ever need the bearing and the seal out, if we ever need to get the bearing and seal out. And it doesn't appear that there was any water in the shaft, which means the seal is still good, but the seal should be new along with the impeller, from what I understood. And I didn't see any water or anything like that when I pulled out this shaft out here. And this here is the side that goes back into this hole here and everything. So, but I did take that pin out so you can get a better look at it. And here's and we'll use a 3/8 socket as a comparison of how small that is. It's smaller than my index finger, and it's rounded on one end and flat on the other, and that's just made to make it easier for you to put the pin back in when you replace the impeller. Okay, and you have to make sure, and I'm sure you saw on the table, there's a metal plate that goes between this housing and this housing. And you can see it in here, right there. And you just have to make sure that that's lined up with the holes. And we start putting bolts back in because we really don't need it all torn apart like this, because that opens up the crankcase. And we really don't want to open up the crankcase, and that's at 3/16. We just need a 7/16. Put our 7/16 back in there. Just like that. Finger start, everybody. Everybody gets a finger start. Done in closing. Speed number 2. We don't need super high potent anything. So we got this was the problem, obviously. So this goes in here into the housing, and so this tube you have to feed it through and connect it, and now we'll do that. Okay, so got these back in, as you know. We got that back in, as you know. We are going to have to replace this bolt because, as you can tell, the shift rod ate the threads. So we don't want to try to use that again. Shift rod seems okay. That would be up here. And that's right here. So the shift rod is okay. It did its job. It's a lot harder than that bolt. That bolt is the way it is for a reason. There's some play in here. I'm not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of that at all. So we'll mess with that. See if the play is just because it's a neutral or what. Not a big fan of that. Which would require this whole thing to come apart. But I'm going to take it up. I'm going to get this whole thing super power washed. We're going to take out what's left of these zincs because they're shot. And I'm going to do this right this time. We have a brush drill. It may even take the prop off. But I'm going to do it all right this time. Because the prop needs to be cleaned up. Housing looks like a disaster. This was all clogged up earlier. So, but this should be okay. I'm not sure if anybody knows. Leave it in the comments.